Alright, nerds, you asked for it. I told you in my last Cartoon Bullies video that if you suggested more Cartoon Bullies for me to rank, I would personally come to your houses and kick your butts. But you just couldn't help yourselves, could you? So I guess let's do it again. Maybe this time you'll learn your lesson. Today I've got over 20 more animated meanies to take a look at and rank to find out who's the worst of the worst. Now, this isn't like every single suggestion that I got, but it's quite a few of them and then some that I remembered along the way. So here we go, Cartoon Bullies Part 2, starting with a couple of groups that I forgot the last time. The Kanker Sisters, Ed, Edd, and Eddy. This is probably the one that people were like the most upset that I forgot about, but let me make one thing clear. If you don't think that I at least considered these three hooligans, you're sorely mistaken, buddy. I'd already had 3 characters from the show in at that point, and I just didn't want to like overcrowd it. But I also 100% see why people would want me to include these 3. Lee, Marie, and May Kanker are all absolutely insane and completely unhinged. They're definitely a bit bullyish, like they're aggressive and overbearing and constantly tormenting the Eds. But it's mostly because they're just totally obsessed with them for some reason. Now, they sure as hell do not go about it the right way. Some might even call their methods harassment, and the boys might want to look into a restraining order at some point. But honestly, these girls are so crazy, that might not even be that effective. They're brutish, violent, destructive, and chaotic, but a lot of it seems to be just sort of like misplaced emotions and not really knowing how to handle them, besides, if I can't have you, nobody can. I'm feeling like a B tier for them as bullies, though. The Gross Sisters, from the Proud Family. Another sisterly trio of bullies. Nubia, Gina, and Electra are more of like your standard bullies. They're constantly trying to take people's money and things, and often willing to threaten violence if they're not able to get it. Strong-arming and intimidating not just Penny Proud, but pretty much anyone that has the displeasure of coming in contact with them. They're meaner, more effective, and a lot more intimidating than the Kankers. And since they're not as crazy, they seem to get a lot more done in the way of bullying. I'm gonna go A tier for them. The Crust Cousins, My Life as a Teenage Robot. Britt and Tiff, also known as the Crust Cousins, bring us into more of like a mean girl territory. It seems like they're not really able to do a lot of like physical bullying towards Jenny, you know, considering she's a cybernetic superhero. But emotionally, they sure do get the job done. Often manipulating Jenny into embarrassing herself or just straight up mocking her. They're pretty much always just trying to put her down. These are snobby rich girls who think they're just better than everybody else, using gossip, rumors, and exclusion as their main weapons of choice. They might not be as evil as some of the villains that Jenny's gone up against, but they're just as mean and have even teamed up with them from time to time. Gonna go B tier for them. Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney, The Simpsons. They might not be like related like the other groups that I've covered, but it just didn't feel right to separate these 3 knuckleheads. Most of the time, you can't really have one without the other 2 close behind. Outside of Nelson, who I covered in the last video, these 3 are Springfield's second string bullies. But just like Nelson, they pretty much fulfill any bullying needs going on. Stuffing kids into lockers, taking lunch money, beating kids up. You know, the usual. But honestly, I think they're just not as good as Nelson is. They're often lazy and seem to end up bickering with each other more than anything else. They seem more to be like bullies out of boredom. Like when they run out of petty crimes to do around town, they find some kid to beat up. But even then, they seem to get kind of bored of that and easily distracted a lot of the times. I think these guys are going on C tier. The Greaser Dogs, Cat Dog. Our last little group here. The Greaser Dogs consist of the leader of the group, Cliff, the smaller yet angrier Shriek, and resident dopey bully, Lube. But you put the 3 of them together and you got like 2.5 brains that are focused solely on making Cat Dog miserable. These are less schoolyard bullies and more like just straight up thugs, even taking their name and whole aesthetic from the greasers of the 50s with like the slicked back hair, the mean attitudes. They're physically aggressive, pretty consistently jerks, especially Cliff, and always just sort of popping up to cause trouble. They do mostly just aim their sights at Cat, especially with Shriek having a huge crush on Dog. But that doesn't stop them from messing things up for both of them from time to time. I'm gonna say B tier. Now let's move on to some lone bullies. Brad Morton, American Dragon Jake Long. Now Brad here is like your average jock dickhead. He's an arrogant prick who thinks he's better than everybody, especially Jake, who he sees as a loser but gets more and more jealous of as time goes on. He'll constantly be putting Jake down or trying to intimidate him, even though Jake could secretly handle him no problem. He's self-absorbed and pretty much constantly a jerk. But he's kind of more of a nuisance than anything else. I'm gonna put Brad on C tier, even though he probably thinks he's S tier. Dash Baxter, Danny Phantom. Dash is kind of similar to Brad in a lot of ways. He's a star athlete who thinks he's hot shit, but he is also a bit more aggressive and might just be more of a dick in general. Before and after Danny got his powers, Dash spent most of his time trying to humiliate him, trying to shove him into lockers, always picking on him and his friends, and just always being a bit of a jerk. He's not like hatching evil schemes or anything, but he's an asshole through and through, even though the kid that he bullies is secretly one of his heroes. He does get his karma every now and then, especially when Danny uses his powers to get back at him, and he's shown time and time again to actually be quite a coward when it actually starts to go down. Still a pretty big jerk though. Let's go A tier. Bumper, Johnny Test. Bumper's your pretty standard school bully, kind of just like a dumb brute, often targeting Johnny in particular. I'd say he's pretty low level on the bullying tier. Like, yeah, he harasses Johnny and roughs him up a little bit, but he's so dumb that he tends to be outwitted by Johnny, and that's saying a lot considering he's Johnny. He seems less like an actual threat to any of the characters and more of just an annoying obstacle that pops up every now and then. Like, he's a jerk, but a pretty unsuccessful one, so I'm gonna go C tier. Brad Batowski, Kick Batowski. Brad takes us into good old-fashioned older sibling territory. As Kick's older brother, Brad's bullying is pretty much aimed directly towards him, constantly mocking him, trying to humiliate him, and just using his bigger size and age to his advantage. But when all's said and done, I think it pretty much comes down to Brad just being jealous of Kick. His younger brother gets all this attention for all his cool stunts, and he's just there being a jerk. Not really a menace or anything, just more of an annoying older brother who's a bit of a dickhead. I'm gonna go C tier. Joctopus, Fishhooks. Possibly in the running for the dumbest bully on our whole list. Joctopus is a big hulking bully who uses his size to bully pretty much every other fish in the sea. He's pretty like threatening and intimidating most of the time, but just dumb enough to where it's not that big of a deal. Like, it seems if you can distract him, you'll be fine. He's like your run-of-the-mill brutish bully, but often able to be tricked or outsmarted when he needs to be. But he's just imposing enough that I think I'm gonna put him on B tier. Lucy Van Pelt, Peanuts. In the world of Peanuts, Lucy is kind of like a bully of all trades. She's got the emotional bullying part down, often belittling her classmates and calling them names, particularly Charlie Brown. She's got some physical bullying going on. I mean, the football gag, it's just absolutely iconic bullying at its finest. And she's even got a bit of the mean older sibling thing going on with her brother Linus. She's bossy and demanding, but she's not like dumb or brutish at all, often using her sharp wit to put others down, especially Charlie Brown. She's not like all bad though. Throughout the long run of Peanuts, she's been shown time and time again to show some vulnerabilities, but those moments are kind of few and far in between. I think Lucy is an effective bully when she wants to be, but she's not often out to like put everybody down and make everyone have a bad day, except for Charlie Brown. I think she goes on C tier. Bluto, Popeye. Here we've got one of the original cartoon bullies. Bluto is less of a bully and more of just a jerk. He's always either trying to kidnap Olive Oyl or beat up Popeye for trying to stop him from kidnapping Olive Oyl. He's a huge, strong brute who never really seems to learn his lesson and always comes back for more spinach-fueled ass-kickings. He kind of seems like the blueprint for a lot of these other bullies, but whereas most of the ones that came after him have a bit of nuance, Bluto doesn't really. He's just a big dumb jerk who's, like committing crime. He's like a genuinely cruel person who sort of set the standards for all the assholes that came after him. But I think even if you take away that legacy, he's still one of the worst out there. No redeeming qualities at all, just a downright jerk who never learned his lesson. I think Bluto's gonna be our first S tier. Princess Morbucks, Powerpuff Girls. Sort of teetering the line between bully and supervillain, Morbucks can definitely be a bit more nefarious than a lot of the others on the list. A spoiled, bratty rich kid who wants to be a Powerpuff Girl so bad that when she's initially rejected, she just turns into a full-on villain, using money-funded schemes and gadgets to try to take down the heroes. She's driven by jealousy, manipulative, and just persistently a nuisance to not just the girls, but all of Townsville. She might not be like a top tier villain or even a top tier bully, but she comes pretty damn close. So I'm gonna say A tier. Mandark, Dexter's Lab. Mandark sort of flips the script in a way in that he's not really like your average bully. Instead of being some big tough guy who picks on Dexter for being a nerd, he's also quite the brainiac himself, but his jealousy of Dexter makes him into more of like an arch rival or a nemesis. He's constantly smug, trying to rub all of his success in Dexter's face, trying to make Dexter look bad or humiliate him, or just pretty much trying to one-up him every single chance that he gets. He's always jealous, scheming, mocking, or just trying to sabotage Dexter every step of the way. I'm thinking a B tier for Mandark. Miranda, as told by Ginger. Miranda might be one of the most jealous people on any animated show. When her best friend starts taking a liking to Ginger, the main character of the show, Miranda just goes off the wall with jealousy, being one of the snarkiest and most mean-spirited characters on any Nickelodeon show. While she's not like shoving Ginger and her friends into lockers or anything, she's consistently cruel throughout the entire run, always putting her down, sending rude comments her way, and just in general trying to make her life hell. She's two-faced, manipulative, and just completely backhanded through and through. While she might not be your traditional bully, she spends her whole life just trying to make Ginger's worse. She might not be leaving any physical bruises, but the emotional scarring is for sure there. Miranda's gonna make it to A tier. Nanette, Angela Anaconda. Another full-on mean girl, Nanette thinks she's the best thing out there. She's snobby, elitist, manipulative, two-faced, and just an emotional nightmare for the main character Angela. Constantly targeting her and just aiming all of her snobbish sights directly at her. She'll come off like sweet or polite to pretty much any adult or authority figure and then turn right around and be as cruel as possible. And her cruelty is like calculated and cunning, which just makes it so much worse than just some big dumb brute coming at you. She's got it out for Angela and more often than not seems to get her way. Nanette's gonna go on A tier as well. Kevin the Sea Cucumber, SpongeBob SquarePants. While Flats was like a one-off typical bully trying to kick SpongeBob's butt, Kevin is more of just an asshole that takes time out of his day to try to ruin SpongeBob's. He pretends to accept him as a friend just purely to embarrass and humiliate him, basically just for his own amusement. He's sarcastic, cruel, and just thinks he's the hottest thing under the sea. He's not like a threatening or imposing character at all, just a huge dickhead, but that makes it all the better when he gets what's coming to him at the end of the episode. I'd probably go C tier for Kevin. Gelman, Recess. In the first video, I decided to go with Lawson because he's less of like your standard bully and sort of like a different breed. Gelman, on the other hand, is pretty much your run-of-the-mill school bully. He's a big dumb bully that uses his size and strength to get all the other kids at the playground to fear him. And fear him they do. No real layers here or anything, just a big asshole picking on anybody smaller than him. He might not be as iconic as some of the other characters, but his reputation sure carries around the playground. Most of the kids in the show are too scared to even come in contact with him. Gelman's going on B tier. Muscle Man, regular show. I saw this one get suggested a few times, and while Muscle Man can definitely be annoying or a bit of a nuisance, I see him more of leaning towards like the friend side of things. He seems more of like an annoying coworker who can be a jerk sometimes than like a downright bully. Sure, he'll pull pranks and tease people, and has definitely been a bit of a dick from time to time, but he's also more than made up for it throughout the show. He's obnoxious and annoying, but I do think more often than not he means well. Maybe just isn't like the best at showing it. Muscle Man just barely made the cut here, so I'm gonna go D tier. Percy Femur, Doug. While Roger Klotz may be like the main bully and antagonist of the show, what do you do when your bully gets bullied? Percy shows up thinking he's hot shit, since, his uncle is the principal and he's a nepo baby. And he almost immediately starts picking on the former top dog, Roger. He's mean-spirited, aggressive, and just a downright asshole to basically everybody since he's the biggest kid in school. Thankfully for everybody else in the show, his time there is pretty short since he ends up getting dragged away by his uncle. But in the short time they had to deal with him, he was pretty damn terrible. I'm probably gonna go A tier. Bull Sharkowski. My gym partner is a monkey. Monkey, monkey, monkey. Here we've got your usual standard schoolyard bully, but this time in animal form. And what better animal to have as your bully than the king of the ocean? Bull is a literal shark who picks on everybody else in the school purely because he's bigger than them. In standard fashion, he's menacing and brutish, but not really all that smart. He does have some occasional moments here and there where he shows a bit of a softer side. But for the most part, he's just pretty much playing the part of school bully, trying to chomp and push his way through everybody else. I think he sits pretty comfortably on B tier. Stelio Cantos, American Dad. Now, if this was a ranking for best bully theme song, Stelio takes it in a landslide. I get that song stuck in my head like once a month. Stelio was originally Stan's childhood bully, but after Steve gets tired of his dad pushing him around, he makes a return to put adult Stan back in his place. He's kind of like an extreme parody of a school bully, just relentless, violent, and unstoppable. Even in a later episode, Roger hires him to beat up Steve so that way Steve's new bully, Louise, doesn't want to pick on him anymore. But then when Louise goes to confront him, he just fawns over the legendary status that is Stelio.
And Louise. They sound good, right?
This guy is a force of nature. Pretty much if your school bully grew up to be the guy from No Country for Old Men, they even have the same haircut. Probably intentional. Just an absolute legend of a bully. This guy is more myth than man, and I think he's absolutely getting a top spot here. Stelio is S tier. Connie D'Amico, Family Guy. One final mean girl for our list here. Connie is relentlessly cruel to pretty much anybody that comes in her path, whether it's a classmate or an adult. She's your typical head cheerleader who's admired by all of her peers and uses that to do whatever she wants to whoever she wants. With this being Family Guy though, of course, her cruelty is a bit more real and actually like emotionally damaging compared to some of the others on this list. Never any real redemptions or anything, just a grade A dickhead who does whatever she wants. Connie's going on A tier. And last up, one that I genuinely can't believe that I forgot. Gary Oak, Pokemon. I am a diehard Pokemon fan. I have been all my life. I even have the fucking Pokeball tattooed on my arm. Yet somehow I missed the biggest dickhead of my childhood. While Gary might not be like a typical bully, you know, he's not like pushing Ash around or anything. This kid talks so much fucking smack. It's less like bully and victim and more of just like a straight up rivalry, but this guy sucks most of the time. Constantly belittling and putting down Ash because he thinks he's better than him and wants to prove it every step of the way. He's smug, arrogant, and cocky just right from the get-go. Over time, he does mellow out a little bit and becomes a bit more of like a friendly rival, even helping out Ash from time to time. And honestly, I'm not sure if Ash would have become the trainer that he did if he didn't have Gary there to motivate him by constantly mocking him. Is bullying good? No, right? Probably not. Anyways, Gary's a dick for sure. But by the end of the show, he's more of like a jerkish friend than like a mean enemy. I think Gary's gonna end up on C tier. And there you have it, you little crybabies. More bullies. Don't like my rankings? I don't give a shit. Deal with it, nerd. And I swear, if you guys suggest more bullies that I missed, you've got quite the atomic wedgie coming your way. Thanks for watching.